let's jump into this opening class on 4-move checkmate, also known as Scholar's Mate. White starts with move e4, it fights for the center and gets our bishop ready to be developed. And the 4-move checkmate really only works, at least classically, against the move e5. And now we are trying to do a checkmate on the square f7. We're trying to set up this checkmate usually with the queen on h5 and a bishop on c4, and they're going to work together and set up some sort of checkmate because only the king is guarding that square. This is only going to work against a really bad player, or someone who's starting out. So what is the best way to start the 4-move checkmate? I believe it's to start it with queen to h5. Because yes, we have this one target, but we also have a bonus target on e5. And black usually will guard the e5 pawn with the move knight to c6. There we go, he's guarding it. And we didn't really care about that pawn on e5. We were really going after the f7 pawn. So here we go with bishop c4. We're setting up the beginner's checkmate, 4-move checkmate. Black can easily shut this down if they are even a little bit past the beginner stage, but just for the concept, some beginners, pure beginners, might play the move knight to f6. This does seem to be a reasonable move. It's attacking that queen that is out too early, admittedly, and it's getting ready to castle. Of course, the problem is that doesn't stop what we were trying to do on f7, and there we go. We have the 4-move checkmate. Now, let's try to understand why I think queen to h5 is the better way, and why queen to f3 isn't the trickiest way to set up this checkmate. And that's because if black doesn't know what you're doing, he might accidentally stop your attack by simply playing knight f6, right? He's just getting ready to develop his pieces. And you notice that your idea was already stopped. So I think this is not the best way to do this, to play this tricky opening, or to try to trick your opponent in this opening. Whereas here, if you play queen h5, right, they could accidentally blunder a pawn. Now, some people do this on purpose for black, because while they blunder a pawn, they are kind of laughing at you for moving your queen multiple times in the opening, right? Later they'll get out of this check, and then they'll get even another tempo on your queen. So to be fair, this is an interesting idea. Here we should play queen f4 to dodge that tempo with knight c6. Okay, anyway, so here another trick that could happen is sometimes at the pure beginner level, black plays pawn to g6, and this simply walks into humiliating double attack. They'll block with the bishop. Usually, they probably should block with the queen, but they'll usually block with the bishop, and then you just say thank you for the rook. If they do block with the queen, hey, the rook is still hanging, but they do get this little counter check in. But a pawn for a rook, and yeah, it's pretty obvious that this is not going to be going to work out for black. So, all right, I think queen h5 is quite a interesting move. It's tricky at the very low beginner level, and I think you could definitely play it up to maybe 1400, maybe even further than that. For example, even after the best moves for black, which if you're playing the black side, you'd want to be able to defend this position, which is quite easy to do. Just make sure that you play the g6 move, disconnecting the queen from the attack on f7. Only when this pawn is protected by the knight. White will almost always just try this trick again. Let's go over here to try it. And now we could stop it with queen f6 or knight f6. I think classically people play knight f6, right? It's just the knight is now blocking the queen's path to the checkmate square. And of course, the knight is protected by the queen. And now the game is still roughly equal, maybe surprisingly. And that's because white started with an opening advantage, and right, they got to start with the first move, and basically they've just thrown it in the trash by moving their queen twice. But surprisingly, that isn't big enough of a mistake for white to be lost. All white really has to do to keep it roughly balanced is white needs to make sure that the queen is not attacked again. And so how could this queen be attacked? Well, okay, maybe this knight is going to poke our queen. So we definitely need to shut this down. And we could shut it down with a developing move. That would protect the queen. And at some point, usually after everyone has castled, at some point, black is going to play the move d6, and now he's going to prepare this poke. And as long as we just see this poke coming, and again, we just shut it down with the move pawn to h3, I think white's position is roughly balanced. Again, it still makes no sense for white to play this way at a higher level because you could be slightly better instead of have an equal position. But that being said, if you want to try for a trick against someone who you suspect is a beginner, but you're not sure, this 4-move checkmate, also known as the wayward queen opening, is a good try to see if you can just knock them out. And of course, if they know all the right moves, okay, we'll just get an equal position. No big deal. Hopefully you're just a better chess player than them, and hopefully you can still outplay them. All right, thank you for joining me.